Okay, let's dive right into this. Imagine for a second stumbling across a dusty old relic from your past, something that doesn't just preserve your precious memories, but actively devours them. Today, we're unpacking a truly terrifying supernatural thriller centered around an artifact known simply as the Shadow of Endings. Our story kicks off with a 72-year-old guy named Bill Backer. He's doing what a lot of us do on a quiet weekend, rummaging through a dusty box of family photos, when he uncovers this heavy, leather-bound book he'd picked up at a flea market way back in the 1980s.
So Bill is just drowning in nostalgia, right? He remembers using this exact heavy book decades ago for a super mundane task, just trying to flatten out his curled-up old fourth-grade class photograph. Naturally, he cracks the spine open, fully expecting this rush of warm, comforting childhood memories to wash over him. But instead of a fun trip down memory lane, he's hit with this absolute wave of cold dread. His initial reaction isn't a nostalgic smile. He just stares at it and whispers, "What kind of sick trick is this?" Because what he actually finds inside the book is a chilling, impossible anomaly.
I really want you to put yourself in Bill's shoes here for a minute. Think about it. What if your most cherished memories literally began erasing themselves? Imagine looking closely at your oldest, most treasured photographs, the ones you've stared at hundreds of times, and suddenly realizing that everyone who has passed away since that picture was taken has entirely vanished from the glossy paper. It definitely sets a deeply unsettling stage for what we're about to explore in this explainer, doesn't it? Section 1. A deadly discovery. Let's investigate the morbid mechanics of this supernatural object for a second to understand exactly what it's doing to the physical world. And this brilliantly illustrates the core concept. The Shadow of Endings is not just some old, forgotten book. It acts as a supernatural catalyst. It doesn't just cause the ink to fade or blur people's faces over time. No, it actively harvests the dead from photographs. It literally removes the deceased right off the physical paper, permanently altering the reality of the image itself. To really grasp how terrifying this is, think about a normal photo. Your memories are intact. Your loved ones are standing right where they always were, smiling at the camera. But in the book's version, there are just empty spaces. Bill looked at his fourth-grade picture and noticed his stern but kind teacher, Mrs. Swanson, was entirely missing. And the truly creepy part wasn't just that she was gone. It was that the school's brick wall in the background showed up perfectly exactly where her body should have been. There were no smudges, no tearing of the paper, just a flawless background completely replacing human existence. The dread just mounts and mounts as Bill frantically scans the photo, literally counting the empty desks. It hits him. He's looking at the ghosts of his fourth-grade class. Mike Thomas, who passed away from cancer in 2017, gone. Angie Brown, Ted Demmings, Bob Evans, Randy Fields, Darla Moore, all gone. And then his eyes lock onto Gary Oldfield's empty seat. Gary had died just last year. Every single person who had passed away since their school days had been wiped completely off the paper. Section 2. Testing the shadows. The very next morning, Bill tries to convince himself he was just tired. Just seeing things. The comforting smell of brewing coffee fills his kitchen, and he sits down with the local newspaper. But that brief, nice moment of domestic peace turns to absolute horror as he casually reads the obituaries. It says, Frank Wilson, age 72, passed away peacefully Tuesday evening. The realization hits him like a freight train. Frank was a classmate in his fifth-grade photo. Bill literally drops his coffee mug on the linoleum in total shock, rushes over to the closet, and checks the fifth-grade picture. Sure enough, where Frank had been smiling just the day before, there's now a hollow gap, exposing the shoulder of the kid standing right behind him. The book is updating in real time. Now, what's really interesting about this is how Bill reacts. Terrified, sure, but driven by this manic, morbid curiosity, he decides he has to test the artifact. He starts frantically feeding older, deeply personal photos into the yellowed pages to challenge the silence. Step 1, the fourth-grade photo. Step 2, the fifth-grade photo that just confirmed Frank's recent death. Step 3, he shoves in his sixth-grade photo. And finally, Step 4, he risks putting in his most treasured, absolute favorite family Polaroid. Section 3. Total erasure. And this brings us to the heartbreaking breaking point of his whole morbid experiment. After a completely sleepless night, the following morning arrives, and the raw devastation of what he placed inside those leather-bound pages is undeniable. The original Polaroid showed a young Bill standing proudly between his parents, Josette and Bill Sr. But the altered Polaroid? Bill is standing entirely alone. His parents, who had both passed away back in the 90s, had been perfectly erased.
The backyard background behind them is totally intact, leaving Bill tragically alone in the center of the frame, with his arms awkwardly extended into empty air right where his parents' shoulders used to be.
The truth is completely undeniable now. The book didn't just store photos, it harvested the dead. Panicking, a terrified Bill slams the book shut, shoves all the pictures back inside, and hurls the cardboard box into the absolute darkest corner of his hall closet. He makes a solemn vow to himself right then and there. He is never, ever going to look at it again. Section 4. Claiming the present. Of course, promises born of fear rarely last, right? Fast forward the timeline a bit, 6 months later to winter. Time has dulled his fear, moving us from that deadly discovery on day 1, through the panic and hiding on day 2, all the way to a cold winter day. Bill is simply looking for some winter blankets in his hall closet when his hand accidentally brushes against that cardboard box. The terror has faded just enough to let an irresistible, nagging curiosity slip right back in. He brings the heavy box out to the kitchen table. The house is dead quiet. He thinks to himself, just one look, just to see if I was crazy. He lifts the heavy leather cover of the book up, and that single, treasured Polaroid slides out, landing face up on the wood. But the image has changed again. The horrific realization sets in immediately. Bill's younger self and the old childhood backyard are entirely gone. They've been replaced by a perfect, crystal-clear image of his own kitchen table, with the heavy, leather-bound book sitting right on it. It's a real-time image of the exact present moment. So the crucial point is, the book had claimed his present. Suddenly, a blinding, vice-like grip tightens around Bill's chest. The air leaves his lungs in this horrible, wet gasp. He is having a massive, fatal heart attack right there. And as his vision tunnels into blackness, his eyes lock onto the photograph on the table. He watches as the book inside the photograph slowly begins opening in real time. Section 5. The curse continues. Exactly 1 week later, the aftermath is just devastating. The house is freezing, smelling of stale air. Bill has passed away, and his daughter Alicia is silently packing up his belongings after the funeral. For Bill Backer, complete erasure. Alicia finds it incredibly strange and heartbreaking that every single photo of Grandpa Bill has seemingly vanished from existence in the house. Meanwhile, her young son Danny unknowingly scoops up the cursed box to take out to their car, thinking they're just holding some old memories. And the Polaroid itself? It now shows an empty kitchen chair with a faint, shadowy outline of a man clutching his chest. As Alicia goes to grab her coat, she spots that bizarre Polaroid of the empty chair. As she pockets it, a sudden, icy draft hits her, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand straight up. She whispers, "Fascinating. It will be interesting to look at that old book tonight." And that right there seals the tragic irony of her curiosity as she walks out, leaving the empty house entirely to the shadows. Which leaves us with this final, chilling question to ponder. Who will the shadows claim next? The dangerous legacy hasn't stopped. It's just been packed up in a box and passed on to a completely unsuspecting daughter and grandson. It's a gripping reminder of how our obsession with the past can sometimes completely consume our present. Thank you for joining me to unpack the mechanics of this brilliant thriller and today's explainer. Stay curious, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, think twice before opening that dusty old book in your attic.